Can we, fine for this speech, but can we switch to speech?
Oh, for sure.
I'll sort of.
I have to switch on. Just because my email's slow with attachments, so everybody will be getting too much prep time.
So you can watch 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I think. Okay, I'll write it on the board, I'll also send the email. It's capital B, lowercase f, capital E, lowercase L, capital L, sorry, capital T, and then lowercase h.
Okay, got it. Yeah, sounds good.
The one that's there is the same one you emailed.
Yeah, I think. Just to proceed.
Okay, ready whenever you are.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, good.
Cool. The advantage of crisis stability deterrence is unsustainable and guarantees extinction. Despite nuclear use and necessitates disarmament use. 24. Deterrence is a myth, and will need to stay believed, believable threats, relative demonstration, radiant, highly dangerous bluff, increased escalation. Both in a nuclear war, deterrence process decision making always behave rationally. Leaders do not, nations surrounding. Legislate ignored orders to use nuke. Leader make bad decisions. Crisis limit intelligent time free, admin rational position. Close global cooperation must not normalize violent conflict. Abolition establishes legal normal process. Leader process to address great power. And regional conflict as well as safe disarmament. Disarmament leader establishes structures of trust and verification. And 1. Stability. Brinkmanship from stability paradox. Encourage adventurism and nuclear exchange. Johnson 24. Stability paradox. The greatest stability of nuclear power. The lower stability of nuclear, lower stability at lower level. Credible second strike provides perception freedom to engage in brinkmanship, limited wars, include T&W's proxy wars, other provocation, conventional wars, when losing, suffering, limited strikes, and escalating the war, drastically increased costs of not striking for states third, coercive pressure during brinkmanship that raises risk, events go out of control, and end in catastrophic nuclear exchange, brinkmanship, institutions, property, a paradox, establishes a consistent link between unintentional nuclear use, MAD, and less the risk, the escalation cannot be controlled at low level conflict during crisis, stress, increases of nuclear war, MAD, uncertainty, and human behavior during crisis, AI thinking, fog of war, integrating AI with NC through raising threshold, which free strike, is successful, AI cannot alter immutable dangers, such as improving brakes on a car will not make playing chicken safer, but only allow them to drive faster, lead a size, recalibrate and produce dangers cannot be foreseen or controlled. And 2 is miscount, it's likely real and existential. Defense also dual-use missiles. Corridor 25. Nuclear workers shot by accident out of error, misunderstanding, because conventional conflict into nuclear. When in 2011, the on-alert error remain endemic. Error missiles are common with these attempts. By understanding drive leaders to respond. U.S. over 16 years produced 7 false alarms. Nations have no way to tell whether missiles are nuclear or conventional. Ambiguity characterizes new nuclear age. Conventional work bring the world rapidly bring the world to the brink. Near misses that remain sheer lockdown deterrence. Accidents are statistically inevitable. PND 16. First, underestimated different statistical techniques came to a conclusion. Even if probability is low over years, approach 100%. Or too many year misses, mistake, miscalculation, common function. The rule not the exception. Statistically shouldn't be here. Sudden incidents during the Cuban Missile Crisis, wandering bear activated B-52 alarm computer tapes. For doomsday malfunction chips happened 3 times. Pedro, Able Archer, scared Norwegian rocket by the rocket operator in an early order to launch. And 3 is emerging tech, increasing the risk of accidents are missing in Golden States and non-state actors. Not 24. On 25, immersive tech, AI, AWS, 3D printing, hypersonics, robotics, increased war competition. For AI, lead of World War III, access use recognition, destroy pilots, power, cyber, AI challenge. Security states target adversary, exploit critical systems, quantum computing. Rupturing encryption, enhanced capabilities, states locate nukes, undermining second strikes, non-state actors. Use drones and cyber targets, facility, empowering states and non-state actors, commercial usage. Made availability easy, UAVs, not expensive. Cyber stolen information and disrupt security. Nuclear system vulnerable to cyber due to increasing reliance on digital systems. And 4 is populism, domestic instability, deterrence failure. And authority 5 guarantees nuclear use. Hyman 22. Rise of populist danger for civilization, Mr. Chrysler, gone nuclear generals take the lead, populists ignore traditional establishments, and behave carelessly. Trump emboldened Americans associated with increase in attacks, division, increase in terrorist instability. An incident, populists are sensitive threats, deterrence suffer from credibility dilemmas. 3 assumption that no one came for granted power calculated that would not be punished. 5, actually skip this. 5 is cyber. Nukes are highly vulnerable to cyber exploitation. Those go nuclear. Falcon 23, modern systems susceptible to exploitation. Components compromised in the supply chain, emerging introduced code. The system that undermined competence, second strike, had actual missiles. Creating signals and compromised decision making. Trigger nuke war. Act can be difficult to distinguish, resulting in launch for timeline. It's further compressed. Data can be poisoning, and machine learning is challenging. Intelligence create biased data, making inaccurate predictions. Tendency to overestimate accuracy because events are frequently to overconfidence. Prevalent military setting, conducive facilitating launch. Weaknesses align by creating incentive to cross president in the face of crisis to launch, and independently leaking nuclear byproduct bioaccumulates exchange in wars. 16. Environmental pollution exerts nuclear waste at the tipping point. Radioactive remain intensely poisonous for incredibly long in the body. Isotope accumulate no just 1 pound enough to kill everyone on the planet. When almost all is product of manufactured nukes, plutonium becomes distributed in the environment already reached high enough level globally to cause serious concern. Widespread in soil cycle, water cycle, and food chain. The endpoint is the human body. The world is on the brink of nuclear devastation. Macklin 26. Negative threats intensify regional conflict, escalate Russia, Ukraine, destabilizing tactics, and illusion. They use India, Pakistan missiles in Iran, Israel, U.S. Iran competition, full arm race, increased warheads, modernization, golden dome, increased confidence space in country field, arm control, question about extended insurance in the country, acquiring new start, expired U.S. resume nuclear testing, and there's no historical evidence for nuclear deterrence. Pelopidas 15. Nuclear weapon for space for peace proven wrong. The point of conflict between China, India, Russia, Harker crisis in India, and Pakistan show conventional wisdom is historically inaccurate. China, Korea, Vietnam, Syria, Egypt, Iraq, Argentina avoided disaster due to law, not deterrence, but latent deterrence solves any investment deterrence without risking war. Furman 17. Latent new powers and non-nuclear states capacity to make deter aggression despite a lack of warheads, evidence real. Egypt, Iran, and Japan reduce vulnerability to nuclear arsenal, not necessary conventional deterrence. Understand the capacity, mere capacity to produce bond, limit military aggression. Practitioners embrace the notion that existing data and military conflict identified with latent nuclear forces are superior to nuclear arsenal. Weaponless deterrence work just as traditional as such. There's a short delay. Weaponless deterrence is more reliable than critiques suggest. Latent nuclear abilities deter military to speed more often than trust. Negative evidence product nuclear industrial complex rejected. England 23. Narrow confines to plague nuclear. Institutions support nuclear war to enjoy funding and relevant funding from armed countries. Government system based in security and nuclear deterrence entire project cancelled following intervention of a funder determine which topic are given attention. Nuclear war cause extinction. Rob 25. Nukes pose external stress to human country. Percent of nukes cause an ICH estimate the majority of human risk extinction. War produced 77 million tons of food spread above clouds when live. Global temperature will drop by 6 Celsius. Precipitation notice decline by 40%. Sunlight decline by 30%. Ozone depleted. Daily temperature UV will decrease by 150%. Food stored able to compensate. Adaptation will be only have limited benefits. War zone starvation. Nuclear war not known in Russia and US. With 152 times the BC will come in temperature by 35 Celsius. Location where freeze would have survival human jeopardy by year 2. 99% of the time of Europe will be starving. It's the only external impact assuming worst case. Chappelle 21. The fire break erosion that affects nukes are greater than conventional, most powerful conventional explosive yield 1/10 and 1% using nuclear retaliation first use. Transform the conventional war to different conflicts. Skip the next 2 cards. Now contain the maximum such a nuclear weapon is the moral. The standard consistent with heat next anti-terrorism, maximizing potential well-being. It's impartial, specific public actor, and infinite regrets. Chappelle 23. Anyone who is suffering is bad well-being is good. Arbitrary limit more concern utility. Starting point 0 is correct basis. First impartiality, prudent, maximizing overall well-being, equal weight with the turn. We may access to probabilities, expanding more circle. Pass more atrocity, perpetuate exclusion, prevention, make error, expand, and more concern. Include all.
Cross X.
Yeah. The last card, cut it out. All.
Sorry, my bad. Okay. Okay, 2 flow checks. You skipped. We get 1 error theory, right?
Was that in here? Oh yeah.
Okay. The other thing, misinfo is also skipped, right?
Misinfo was skipped, and then the
last 2 cards.
Last 2 cards.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
Sorry.
Okay. This latent deterrence argument. Can you explain what latent deterrence is?
Yeah, it's using conventional deterrence to like limit aggression indirectly, so we don't rely on threats of like mutual assured destruction, where when nation would say.
Why are conventional threats sufficient to deter states which are more militarily powerful?
It not like going to war itself would cost a lot of money and also cost a lot of personnel. So the threat of conventional like the cost of conventional war itself would deter.
Okay, so the U.S. invaded Iran. Iran obviously has like allies, conventional military. Why did like those not stop U.S.?
Well, nuclear deterrence also did not stop like those scenarios, like U.S. invasion. Obviously,
who did the U.S. invade that had nukes?
Like Iran was on the brink of
well. Yeah, wait, exactly. They invaded them before they got nukes. They were scared of the nukes. I'm asking a question about why did the conventional weapons not scare them?
Well, because the same way like Iran has the threat of Iranian nuclear program did not discourage U.S. invasion. So the same way.
So the threat, so latent deterrence is not sufficient. Yeah. Latently having nuclear weapons, you have to actually physically.
It is not latent deterrence. Rather, that argument. Well, that's not latent deterrence. Our argument about latent deterrence is specific to having conventional weapons that deters a military conflict, because the threat of like being drawn in.
No. I don't think you understand what latent. This concept called the mere capacity to produce the bomb could limit military aggression. Iran had the capacity to produce a bomb. Why did it not deter military aggression?
Well, argument is that Iran. Well, first of all, like Trump is a unique cause. Like obviously, Biden did not like engage in Afghanistan, or like the United States did not invade any other country after Afghanistan.
Okay, this is
failure of Afghanistan.
Okay, question. emerging tech, this evidence is just like a Christmas tree of like random technologies,
Yeah.
quantum computing, drones, cyber attacks. Is the terminal impact all of these things such that they make it like harder to collect information or like information gets out?
It also makes like locating nukes and second strike harder, easier. Like makes locating nukes harder, easier, and makes second strike harder.
Okay,
It
just
makes
to
have the ability
it's
to.
easier to locate nukes. What's the incentive for nations to target other nation nuclearly?
Well, it's strategic purposes, i.e., the principle of deterrence, where both nations think about it like both nations on a car, like they'll remove the brakes.
Okay, wait, question.
Because deterrence relies on clustering.
Okay, right now,
over.
all these countries have conventional weapons.
Mhm.
If you're right, the conventional deterrence solves. This is not zero the case because you can just conventionally deter the nuclear threat.
Wait, why?
Why can you not deter a nuclear threat with conventional weapons?
Because the argument is because we currently have nukes. Like nukes are distinct, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
produce a different type. Like think about it like this: conventional deterrence only happens when there's no nuclear possession across the world. Because nuclear possession itself is what makes military superiority unique. I.e., the threat of nuclear use itself. Would,
I don't think that's substantiated by evidence. Setting it out,
Sure.
the order is 6 and then the advantage.
Cool.
Let me know when you guys get this.
You said it was speech round,
It's a
Yeah.
facial.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Mr. Charson. Okay. First off, the security abolition will be the de facto engine of global conflict. Point 10, the appeal of conventional world system, advanced second version, to nukes of kind of discord for conventional disarmament, desiring peace, resulting on question need for military and discarding weapons while conventional forces remain wage wars, while your more frequent during abolition de facto engine of global conflict, the all subjective plans, complicit colonialism, that's also the case. Example 22, harmful colonial practices, 21, harmful colonial practices, disinvestment, counter policies, the university opportunities for social refusal, enable nuclear and co-creation. Next off is NFU, it would be moral. If countries adopted by nuclear no first use policies, NFU solves them with 15 consideration to give the NFU, but legal obligation would be confidential with the Nordics and nukes engage in discussions of negotiating procedures, legal analysis, political will be legally workable, drawing laws no prior place in prior to political agreement, to administration and close relationship. Next off is the volcano scale, and state should limit and publicly declare the sole purpose of the nuclear arsenals preventing supervolcano eruptions, competes and solves supervolcano eruptions coming out. Extinction nuclear use solves anchor record. 18. Supervolcano eruption immediately cause extinction plants, animals, fish collapse and Mars separation, large supervolcano eruption even worse, really and collapse abuse, leading to ventilation, collapse, recovery, civil shot, guaranteed extinction, the result of making nuclear explosion. Given a initially increased cavity, evacuated magma from magma, century magma, could be combined with nuclear detonations, turbine meltons, with requires conventional weapons, less technically feasible. Possession entails potential for use, the Afghan law use in any instance. Kawhi 25. A nuclear arsenal is ready for use in military stress. Boil force stress. A view that possession of nuclear weapons entails potential for the use to indicate a growing opinion of jurors. Possession cures legally relevant consequence of possession enables. Wait, that's best. Anything else also have to maintain physical warheads despite out of deterrence days. Next off is in North Korea. The possession of nuclear weapons accepted by North Korea is immoral. North Korean regime creation is high now, but it's shaky. Moon 26. 2026 important for no future. Effective development can will take advantage of Congress's strength and power under a slogan, a strong nation with the nukes, stability with the Beijing improve. Came to serious stability without serious domestic challenges, stability shall be safe for predictability, challenge uncertainty. We define a future. Nukes are the only guarantee against U.S. regime change operations. Lewis 39. Libya dismantled nuke program with dragged out by NATO. Global security factors. America's intervention has came to refuse to use sensible Kyiv. Sitting renting arsenal Russia and exhibitions around Saul program 15. U.S. now conducting regime change. Maduro never had no as an outlier conventional. Despite right-based nukes are the great equalizer. The U.S. has means and motive empirics prove it, and nukes are the crucial strategic barriers. Day 127. Since 50s provocative dangerous American actions against North Korea, no co-issued threats. Warhawks advocated attacking North Korea, invasion of Libya, evidence will subsequent regime change and bombing of Iran along Korea. Nuclear deterrence essential to survival. Deterrence has worked with war with the U.S. would be high stakes speaker. Country presents peace, nothing more to lose. Must show in the face of stats and nuclear program made down its essential crisis for Washington. Consequences of Yonge nuclear station to read bear. Despite significant strategic advances, was resolved for credible sufficient for immediate deterrence. Nukes control domestic dissent and distract from other regime troubles. 24. No coast nukes to minimize domestic retaliation. Shooting glad strategy to cause blow up to authority and control nukes to right propaganda nukes such protecting the populace that enhances ideological influence over population and nuclear rising. The unsuccessful since weapons will be unnecessary security, both military and socioeconomically. Perception of collapse means WMDs and U.S. China war. Extinction Katsianis 17. Even more proposed to nuclear the collapse of nuclear concern over control over nuclear chem and bioweapons and BW attacks by vying for power non-proliferation nightmare. Lose WMD shatter society take up armed civil war, particular state power for the CCP's greatest warrior is collapse. The Korea allied with America showdown. Washington Beijing and the offing bioweapon usage constitution Helmar 23. Or this is a self-helping to limited strength. The attack advances education experience harder growing lowering cost means escalating threat to unstable regions capable of existential horror such pathogen to destroy the relation between lethality and display. The best studies are 1921. Some diseases affect all nodes. Those lead to human extinction of smallpox and Ebola. But a large population increases the risk increase with mobility infected spread will infect every person. Studies not going to quantitative assessment for consider various characteristics result diseases reveal disease lead to extinction. Great power war destroys cooperation and necessary to respond to accidental risks. Calendar 24. Asteroid bioweapons, super volcanoes, climate change, nanotech, and AI, all existential humanities, cooperation, clear power, conflict, risk survival, necessary to combat extinction, surrounding infrastructure, surrounding extinction, recycling resources. The means all zeros 3. Use of testing alone, adequate to single up kind of energy. If some do not use the connotes all its persuasive claims or ordinary incompetence. The reference is a group as a whole. That's best singular nukes systems of combinations. Exploit preparation theory, combination, NPT based uniformity, advantage speed picks. Next off the transition DA. The process of disarm causes nuclear war. Divorce K12. Nations should nations disarm process lead to problems become distressful point of complete paranoia. Intelligence more incentive for first strike increased probability from nuclear war concealing nukes give nation enormous military advantage. Hughes concedes this gradual disarmament of take backs and shiftiness means sequence the worst possible torsion plan and start rehighlighting. Next off is durability. U.S.-China cooperation is rising now because of orbital nukes published. 25. Officials say Moscow's developing nukes in orbit. NATO SecGen has plans. Concerned Kirby, former national security advisor, confirmed linking possibility with China treating him to exert pressure. Russian orbital nukes for U.S. China cooperation over a series of accidental risks. Clue 24. Putin start nukes of U.S. diplomatic opening. G. Cultivate uneasy friendship with Putin. He need to lose Chinese satellites to Russian blast specter of Russian nuke escalation and space and occasion to make common cause in restraining Putin, who cannot afford to lose Chinese support. The trust between Washington and Beijing lead to them cooperating on restraining Yoko. The low carbon emissions stabilizing Middle East, regulating AI, became arms control negotiations involving U.S., Russia, China. This counterplan, I'll send it out after. The possession of nuclear weapons, the possession of orbital nuclear weapons is immoral. It solves this impact trying to figure out for one advantage. Nuclear war is kept at 1%. Experts said like 24. Probably that before 45 incidents involving use will cause death of 10 million. Superforce response was 1%. The largest comprehensive survey of experts believes that nuclear risk. No nuclear miscalc use is reserved for few signals and requires planning. K23. Leaders understand firing weapons not simple. Nuclear conflicts delivered not accidental. There is no evidence of war. Result for accident even with tech in the 60s. No nation ever experienced actual detonation with modern safety. Likely even lower strikes are planned with intent after extensive prep in Ukraine. Muscle stroke polish. However, NATO decided against response decision initiating war just solely for direct threats. Miscalculated war is bunk. Track 23. Years of miscalculation, ignorance, bad faith or mechanism. Exchanges 80 years of nuclear age. Few accidents. None of them led to escalation and failure to make judgments. The many prospects of war exhausted leading back from 1400 not turn up a single pace. Hyman's literally concedes the studies its sites are inapplicable today in a populace who never launch any nukes. It's literally just a worst case scenario that would never happen. Insert rehighlighting no populace of more impact. Till 22. There are points of disagreement between military populace oppose wars intervention as to take money away from domestic programs populace propose cutting defense. This makes populace leaders difficult partners for military. The misinfo scenarios premise of states like in social media have been launching. No one uses Twitter for decisions. Miscalc warrants answer it. And AI consult disinfo. Delca 25. AI increased the likelihood of correct answer capable of allowing participants to accurate misinformation, helping people develop the critical thinking and digital literacy skills. Tech prevents escalation. 25. 21. Scholarship argues AI destabilizes our strategy. Deepfake spies, cyber vulnerabilities require greater granularity benefits. Overall, community which views are short-sighted. AI enhances decision-making capability and resolve intervening into ISR, inventing diffusion controls, increasing reducing undetected solution, limited bias, leadership, crucial de-escalation. No cyber impact longer than 22. Conducting cyber against nuclear the hard state. Conduct these in secret mitigates escalation to cost. The responses they would have to detect the likelihood is low, be stable, keep sensitive, secret opportunity. Virtual nature cyber weapons really cause destruction. Pollution is not by energy, all can't solve because the cleanup has to happen, which I've been sort of recut of. All of industrial society like cars are on cause pollution, no impact. Yes, like China and Brazil solve pollution. No conventional conflict. 25. The stability ability of strength is limited logic, but no leader can be confident. Limited wars would not escalate. You can make leaders cautious even at lower levels. Cold War, just characters with U.S. China stalemate. Deepening countries' stability, returning to bipolarity, more stable. Nuclear war can't constitution. Robot 25. Nuke winter extinction. Not ruled initial studies on current work. Unlikely Australia, New Zealand, Southern Hemisphere survive not ice age. Climate destruction not long enough. Oxygen and consequential greenhouse much of global south survive and have suffered little loss. News world smart enough to not repeat mistakes. Oh, also sorry for the counterplan above. Didn't mean to hide it. Just forgot to not hiding it. I just forgot to send it out earlier. I'm gonna spend the rest of my speech time writing this text. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm good for this time. Right?
Cool. The transition to SAD, is the argument just like countries use nukes? Or wait, it doesn't even say what's the impact to countries concealing a few nukes?
No, it's not they conceal it. It's while they are transitioning, they would use the nukes.
Okay, wait, that's not substantiated by your evidence. It's just countries become more distrustful. Actually, yeah, they'll respect, sure.
Increased probability of nuclear war.
Why does this not prove the possession of nuclear weapon as immoral? Because
we think that
countries possessing
we think that while the AF contends a maxim, we think that it is logical for the affirmative to be forced to defend a normal means of implementation. Even if the topic is a value statement, it still needs some form of implementation. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to negate the AF. And we think what your evidence says that normal means is a gradual disarmament, so we should be able to negate that.
Okay, the NFU counterplan, how this argument solved? It seems like
what do you think it does?
Most of the card talks about binding legal obligation. How does NFU avoid miscalc or
it literally bans launching nukes first.
Okay, but miscalc would obviously be second strike in response. So
Well,
If no country could first strike, then I'm confused what the argument would be. If no country could first strike,
Okay.
then we would what? Like yeah, if no country could first strike, then there would be no second strike.
Okay, sure. The Caliborn impact on the North Korea dissent assumes global cooperation solving asteroids, bioweapon, ASX, etc. in the status quo. What global cooperation is happening now?
What do you mean? Like over those risks?
What global cooperation is solving bioweapons, asteroids, etc. in the status quo that prevents the threats listed by Caliborn?
Okay, wait. To clarify, this isn't a double turn with the other stuff because our argument is that those threats could happen, but are not happening in the short term. We think over a longer period of time, those things will happen. We agree. Climate change is obviously not being solved now in either nanotech, ASI, asteroids, etc. Our point is that in the long term, humanity will be able to affect them. This does not take out things like the North Korea date because our argument is that in the short term, North Korea's regime will collapse and that causes bioweapons to spread.
Okay.
Also, regardless, if you concede that cooperation is high now, that would also solve the case because no country would ever go to war.
Well, that like the Caliborn evidence is not talking about the nuclear impact, so. Like,
I mean, it literally says they're cooperating over conflict.
Okay, sure. The orbital dissent, U.S.-China cooperation, like the evidence just does not talk about cooperation. It says like one U.S. like national security official.
No, that's the
talking with
uniqueness
China.
card.
Yeah.
This second card, it's tagged as an impact, but it actually is like the link card.
Okay, it says quote cultivate an like which evidence says that
Putin star nukes give
now?
U.S. a diplomatic opening.
Okay,
It
how
says,
does that spill over to cooperation with like China fully?
it says that it supports seeds of trust between Washington and Beijing, which leads to them cooperating.
Okay, this is about Biden doing this. Why does Trump necessarily follow on to like have a friendship with China if like he's,
Trump has, I mean, one year can be evidence about this, but we're going to say that Trump is still cooperating with China. He's done things like reduce tariffs on them because he wants diplomatic openings. Obviously, he disagrees with these other things. He's going to.
Okay, but tariff is not caused by like trying to avoid Russian space nukes. Like, so
Well, our
that
point is that
cause-
like that didn't spill over because it hasn't been as big. We think this would be a really big thing that both of them find common cause
Okay,
in.
cool. I'll take it back.
Also, I sent out the extra counterflow text. I misspelled text in the doc name, but like, oh shit! I put the wrong text in. If you open the doc,
Okay.
okay, sorry. Like, I just put out the text I actually said out loud, and not what I misspelled. Okay.
Cool. That's 440 taken. I'll send the 1 AM.
Sounds good.
I lost the speech drop.
You need the code again.
It's on the
What's
board.
it?
Yeah. BFBLTH. It's sent.
Sorry, what's the order?
Case, the security K, the like volcanoes counterplan, the NFU counterplan, the North Korea dissent, the transition dissent, and then the orbitals dissent.
Okay, sounds good. We got it.
I'm ready.
Cool. Cron.
Yeah, okay.
Extend the miscalc scenario. Accidents are inevitable. Numerous close calls suggest looming threat at first use coupled with geopolitical tension. Drop 1 against the indict. The next evidence are survivorship bias, so you should discount them. Super forecasters fail. Could not ask Kasafi. In 21, accuracy forecasting vary. Effectiveness limitations, salient biases, inadequate fall and non-core performance. Fitness limits also locked don't assume rising tensions. So what percent does not apply? Now Kang is wrong. Cold War empirics assume an age of low numbers, and without launch and warning, Ukrainian empirics do not apply. Missiles flying on a random Polish village on the border to trigger leader decision because it does not fly on NATO silos. Our puny evidence, index the shake evidence, current signal models. Fail to account close calls. They assume actual nuclear use happening in miscalc scenarios. Also, if you have the Cuban Missile Crisis play out 10 times, there's certainly at least one time there was no nuclear use. We just been lucky is compounded by the instability paradox. Nuclear states are emboldened as engaging conventional wars because they think that they have nukes that deters the conventional war from escalating, which is what their hidden evidence is about. But time has changed because conventional missile can carry nuclear warheads and nations will escalate a conventional war to nuclear because they have no way to travel with an anniversary and launch a conventional missile at them or nuclear one. Now, nuclear war is existential. One, war releases astute black carbon that destroy ozone that makes food harvesting impossible, that causes extinction through famine. The negative evidence from Roblox, our evidence is size Roblox and is the newest model that's newer than Roblox, which says nuclear winter will cause extinction. So you're affirmative. Now, security K, firmer way the case. Let's see the affairs in class because anything else moves to the 1AC. Party discussion, perm do both. As the alternative can overturn the status quo, then can overcome links and overturn the status quo. Refusal cannot solve the case. Do not spell up to ending nukes, only address rhetoric. Extinction outweighs irreversible. In a form evaluated prerequisites to their product. Disarm, desecuritizes, Zhao. 18 nukes generate fear, destructive radius between countries and try to killing 700,000. Makes lots of fewer conventional comparatively acceptable. Encourage countries to behave more assertively at the conventional level in society where nukes are no longer present. Governments would be more cautious. Now, the volcanoes counterpoint. Permutation do the counterpoint. They not be definitions for nukes on one instance, so you should are affirmative, and 2 in our competition will be too late. That's nukes are must intended to use as a weapon. License 9. 11. Nuclear weapons, any device utilizing atomic energy principle purpose is for use as a weapon. They must be used offensively against people. Dictionary 23. Any device for use, combat, or war against adversary rejects sole purpose counterpoints. That makes offensive impossible because they can just magically fiat that nukes are only used for certain things, which literally there's no way for the app to be against that or say that's bad. Now, the impact, otherwise, if you direct the counterpoint, then the dissent alone cannot outweigh the case because 1, there's no uniqueness for repurpose, and 2, the counterpoint will keep the nukes around and cause miscalculation. The impact is far too late. Volcanoes will not erupt for hundreds of years. Their impact is way too late, and intervening actors solve because there's obviously other measures by global cooperation that can solve their impact. Now, NFU counterpoint, permutation do both. They cannot solve for miscal. Countries perceive an incoming missile as an attack, so they use nukes in response. Dual use missiles can either cure conventional or nuclear warheads, so nations have no way to tell in advance. Countries do not know durable fiat, so they think others countries are violating their NFU policy. Historical record shows no net benefit. Cost 21. Benefits were entirely absent. NFU perfect record failure. Also goes the other side, never believing it fully. China, India, quintessential. Arsenal predict incredible policy. Small arsenals, weapons are geo-alerted. Weapon warheads separated. There's still belief about commitment. Skin card. Go to North Korea. Kim first strikes now due to region pressure. Zhang 35. Striking Iran reporting warning for Kim most media lessons. The U.S. willingness to move hostile later for a deep blow to Iran. Predicting the leader that makes threat feel real, even as Trump flew the idea of the summit. Try to show that even with nuclear can still be taken out. Trump decides to act with fear. Learn cannot depend on China and Russia. The regime is proudly demonstrated by taking strike on U.S. mainland. Any leadership strike will immediately trigger nuclear retaliation. No strike for regime change. Hojin 1-5. Security experts know reaching him unlikely. The vice chairman will threaten nukes against SOCO, CIA. Monitor Maduro for month surveillance inside. Entirely control systems are difficult. China and Russia, U.S. cannot strike at the card as strike. The link is actually skip the next card. Surveillance cells collapsed. Barge 25, surveillance growth since 2014. With new type punishment will be harsher. North Korea versus country specified member. It executed for distributing TV under law citizens that is control and part of life. North Korean bioweapons are overblown. Country 19 intel says in the video that dropped Oko has had no safe space weapon control and considered sources. Provide no documentation because the current documentation now transition to tab. Verification solves JLS 20. Introducing an verified process and improve overall security process, build up trust and number of roles in each for new trust negotiation, verify public delivery. Transparency, intrusive inspection, and increase in each chart instead of to maintain nukes and decrease. Also, the type of proof possessing nukes is immoral. This is not proof possessing nukes is immoral because concept launch. So flip that. Now, orbital says that. No cooperation now. Negative interest says it creates opening, but Trump is emboldened in Russia. He completely befriended Putin, etc. and will not second of China. So space cooperation structurally limited. False 25 towards feminine structurally limited. Co-op with nation outside of cooperation. So the all cooperation. Also, the impact card did not have an impact, terminal impact to it. So it's like unwarranted. Do not allow to warrant for it. Shoot, I think I left my charger in the prep room. Like, are you okay for me getting it right now?
Wait, let me just. Can I pause it? I'm not good.
Huh?
Wait, are we prepping or like?
You can prep, yeah.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. Sure. Oh wait, did you read the card on the security key, like disarm desecuritises?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Is this like a solvency card for the app, or is it like just like
It can be implicated as that.
Okay, sure.
Also, reason to reject the team.
No. Or yeah, it's reject the argument. There are some, but yeah.
Wait, is it just sole purpose?
Sole purpose bad is the only reason to reject the
Okay.
argument. Sure. Yeah. Like, the only theory argument is the one you have.
Okay, sure. The order. Wait, sorry, that's actually cards. Let me check that. 1 second.
Oh.
There's cards. Let me see.
Okay.
Okay. The order is going to be the North Korea DA, the volcanoes counterplan, transition DA, orbitals, no first critique, no first use, the advantage.
Okay, is orbitals in the order?
Oh, did I not? I said
You s-
orbitals after transition.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Misheard. I am good. Or sorry, let me get. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
One second, please. Okay.
Okay, sorry. And then Lucas, you good? Okay, this debate breaks down pretty simply. The one here only answered the bioweapons impact and then basically fumbled all of the link defense. So the DA is massive and the case is highly mitigated. US China war outweighs state collapse will draw. China and alliance commitments drop magnitude. They're the two of the three largest nuclear. They're massive arsenals of conventional weapons. They dropped in conventional war causes extinction. This is important. They dropped it so it prevents cooperation over every existential risk. The one here did not have any defense to this impact in the Kallenborn evidence. They've only answered the bioweapons impact, which I didn't go for. The one explicitly flagged this. And remember, none of their US China defense cooperation defense and cross-supply. His argument is not the US is cooperating with China, but rather states are globally cooperating over issues like climate change, AI, biotech, etc., health crises that all need to be stopped now, and only preventing conventional war can stop it. Second, probability. Remember, we have 80 years of nuclear peace, but you know that the plan is the most important thing. They can push it over. No defense assumes a paranoid China post invasion. Now, I'm also going to extend bioweapons defense DA just in case. North Korean regime collapse unleashes a rapid threat of bioweapons and unleashes factions and rogue actors, and now he's on probability because the nuclear taboo means states would never use nuclear weapons first. Our DA also solves the case, conventional cooperation, and the status quo means countries would never have a reason to use nuclear weapons because they think that these countries all work together. Now, I'm going to start with this add-on that North Korea is going to use first. This is logically incoherent and is not based in any reading of evidence. I'm going to read you a line from this card. Quote, strikes in Iran and early in Venezuela show that even with nuclear weapons, states cannot deter. What does that mean? Neither of those countries have nuclear weapons. It proves this author clearly has no idea what they're talking about, and you should not evaluate this. Regardless, North Korea is defensive. Loose 24. Kim Jong-un engaged the attributes of war are intended to prevent war. These are very question centered war and trade conflicts on choice of competitors. This is logically incoherent. Kim has no reason to first strike if he fears the US. The first strike would only make things inevitable. No North Korea war. Lead 2021. Korean British Office Management. Experts forecast need to break down military clash intensity. Management SS structural coordinates focus on managing tensions, show combination show force. Return to like co-op among Soko, US and Japan keyboards manage potential issues. Regardless, if we prove the link argument that nukes are deterring US, then North Korea would have no reason to first strike because they know they're safe. Now, the regime is stable now. Kim is pursuing broad normalization, economic reforms, running platform that center strength and nukes, calling domestic tensions. That's mood. Now, the plan triggers a US regime change operation. The MICs trigger happy post Venezuela and Iran war hawks advocate interventions. In North Korea, we've been consistently provocative only nukes solve the deterrent invasion by raising the cost of Western intervention. This is the day evidence. The day evidence is so much better than their cards one, which should be left around. Dropping the only post Iran evidence also ends the debate. You need to remember that no other text matter. Commander Lewis says that North Korea is the only extreme authoritarian regime that has opposed the U.S. that has ever not faced regime change. Countries like Libya all prove. And remember, the one here is 0 counter examples of states that pursue deterrence. The whole point of Iran is that it's our argument that Iran had the potential of having nukes and that wasn't sufficient for latent deterrence. Regardless, 1ER did not extend any of the 1AC deterrence arguments, so do not get takebacks. Now, I'm going to indent the Hyojin card. It's a series of warrant claims without warrants. The first assertion is that nukes solved. That's our argument, and we're explicitly conceding it from their cards. No takebacks. It is the deterrence state. Next is that espionage is hard. We all do the data. Trend 25. U.S. claims thousands of hours of intelligence by NOCO. Aircraft capable of capturing real-time intelligence, taking into identifying geolocated electricity signals, collected 81 terabytes of intelligence, did over 2,000 different flyers. Next, that North Korea's allies, even if North Korea's allies, our point is that the U.S. doesn't trust that those allies intervene. For example, in Iran and Venezuela, they were allied with China and they did not intervene. But that does not disprove our impact argument, because even if they did not intervene in the past, they care more about North Korea because of its status as a highly important country in its regional area. However, but our evidence prices that in for the question of the link, which answers all these arguments regardless. And worse, even if China doesn't get drawn in, we still have a bioweapons impact that's external. Last is lack of motive. It's wrong. Trump ideologically disagrees with Kim, and national strategy proof isn't purely interested. Now, the plan trigger independently. I'm also going to extend not going to extend the other link about an internal upheaval. It doesn't answer any of our link defense. Surveillance solves about people within North Korea rising up. An argument is that the U.S. would commit a regime change operation. Oh, no, North Korea bioweapons is wrong. This card does not assume the card says that we don't have public evidence in North Korea, but our honest evidence that our studies of what we think North Korea has, which is far more likely, given North Korea is again a secretive regime per their one of our arguments. So obviously North Korea would not publicly disclose it as nuclear weapons. Regardless, this card is also pretty bad. I'm gonna to pull it up. This card also says that they do not have as many bioweapons, but they certainly have them. And our card doesn't say a single bioweapon would be enough to go global. We should not take the risk because our evidence says the bioweapons are rolled. It says that there's people currently collaborating with North Korea and they would not want to give it out. Our point is in the concept of state collapse, they would give them out, which is dropped. The volcano kind of one. Concede the perp not going for a theory, reject the argument that team transition DA do the same, doesn't prove possession of the role, because disarm doesn't happen in our world, so it's not offense, orbitals. Concede the perp not going for it, concede no collaboration inevitable, not going for it, critique, concede perp to both, there's no offense, there's not offense against anything else, and if you concede the perp, it's no offense, advantage. There's 0 risk of the case. 1, 2 frames for miscalled. 1, prep. Nations have to think before launching nukes. When NATO considered nuking a village, it required weeks of preparation and prevented conflict. That's Kang. 2, pure numbers. Shock says that there's not been a single example of miscalculated war in the past 600 years. Do not fall for the cult of specificity. And recently, conventional wisdom really does apply in this instance. The thesis applies assumes states act entirely irrationally, which just does not make sense. These are filled with governance bodies. Now, accidents inevitable and numerous close calls do not understand how statistics work. If it is true that it is actually inevitable, it would have happened over 80 years. Otherwise, the statistics are so low, in which case the DA just outweighs on probability, even if it is not 0. There's nothing that's likely. They say survivorship bias. I thought this is answered above. Super forecasters not going for this specifically, but there are 1AC uniqueness cards. But concede that author qualifications matter. 1AC uniqueness cards are from random people online, but Shaq is from a study over 600 years. Rises in tensions do not follow the cold specificity that's above. Nothing has changed in the last few years, which like Kang being old doesn't matter. But Poland does ally with NATO, which means it does part of NATO territory now. Their impacts only assume nuclear use. It's wrong. They dropped the no paradox. It's the same as the Cold War, where nuclear weapons actually encourage restraint, even if the conventional wisdom argument does not apply. The other point is that the U.S. states, if it's a broad thesis, the states are emboldened, they would never have it last. Dual use over missiles defense assumes this. States know that dual use missiles exist, but they would never launch immediately because they would wait for it to hit their homeland. They would wait for it to hit their homeland regardless, which is empirically disproven by constant dual use missiles going off in places like Iran, but nobody assumes a nuke has happened, which some seem to.
Okay, 20 seconds. Okay, it's gonna be case disad. Mr. Torsten, are you? Okay. Oh, Vikram?
Yeah.
Cool. Miscalculation outweighs. Vicron's tuner did not do any impact calculus. She said the words US China war outweigh without saying magnitude, time frame, etc. So you should are affirmative for our impact weighing because we're the only side doing weighing this debate. Miscalculation happens now and fast. Our court evidence says that there's 2,000 weapons on high alert, and those can go off in the case of conventional conflict or even a conventional miscalculation. Their scenario does not assume any of our recency arguments, so we should are affirmative heavily. Now, I'll do the line here. First, say prep. Nation have to think other country is nuking. Obviously, they will think another nation is nuking if they're flying a conventional missile into their territory in the case of conventional or if another nation flies, like for example, a conventional missile bypass, like does a military drill that has conventional missile fly, like for example, over New York or some version of that, which the Polish village stuff does not apply because our argument is we've said that Polish village is about some random place near Ukraine, not some actual military silo that's important to NATO, so that's why NATO did not retaliate in the past. Now, the stake evidence, they drop our evidence index, which is that stake assumes a stake's definition of miscount as miscount the cost of actual nuclear use. That's obviously not that, but we have said that close calls should also be counted because close calls can escalate to a nuclear war. So if there's close calls in the past, like Cuban Missile Crisis, Able, Harker, etc., Patrol, like weather balloon, which is all the evidence in the example of the 1AC, they should are affirmed because there are examples of close calls. When you have those close calls like Cuban Missile Crisis play out like 10 times, it certainly would go nuclear. Now, the accidents in 80 years, obviously a very short, limited time frame, and over, like for example, 100-year-old escalate. In our scenario, and we have been explicit that there's high number of warheads in the status quo that makes escalation uniquely likely. Now, which I was their offense. Now, the qualifications of irrelevant. Our quals are simply better. We cite experts, while they cite random like people. Like Steak is Steak doesn't have a PhD, I believe. So you should are affirmative. Now, the last argument about Steak knows dual use missile. This is wrong. They do not. States obviously will not wait for a missile to strike and land on them to strike back. Obviously, Trump will not let Russia nuke New York before he strikes back. So the scenario simply falls. They've just asserted stuff without warrants to be affirmative. Now, our impact outweighs one magnitude. The scenario. The tuner did not explain why bioweapons or other stuff cause extinction. We have explicit reason why nuclear war causes extinction through suit, etc., which outweighs two is time frame. Miscalculation happens fast, while global cooperation takes decades for their cross expedition. So our scenario happens first and precludes global cooperation. Our scenario turns case. Obviously, if everyone's dying from a nuclear catastrophe, then there will be no cooperation in the first place. And so our scenario has to outweigh. Now, bioweapons is that. I'm going to contest the link argument. There's no U.S. invasion, so the scenario just simply so the rest of the impact argument goes away. The first answer is that our scenario is about nukes. This is wrong. Argument is the next line of the evidence is not about nukes, but rather that Trump has no incentive to invade North Korea. There's two warrants. One, he's tied with Kim. He has good relation with Kim and visited North Korea several times, which means that he does not treat Kim as other allies. The other answer there made was that North Korea was the only authoritarian regime not first struck by the U.S. That's obviously because Trump likes Kim, so it goes away. Now, Trump also would not. The other warrant that Trump would not invade is that he fears China retaliation. Obviously, China retaliation because China could attack the U.S. and U.S. Destroys North Korea, which will be very costly for Trump. Their answer does not apply. Obviously, Iran and Venezuela are not Chinese allies, and even if they are Chinese allies, they're not near China, which is why China did not attack back. But for North Korea, it is likely they have read U.S.-China war impacts for us, which proves that Trump fears U.S.-China war, so he would not attack North Korea. So the link to this is ridiculous. Cool. Good debate.
Do you want a card doc?
You got it.